Lupita, thank you so much for applying to come on the podcast. And let's share with the listeners just where you're from, who you are, what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Lupita. I am based in Ventura, California. I am a lash artist and I've been lashing for roughly a year and a half. So it's been fun. It's been new.
Right? Just the fun of lashing and then the fun of business ownership, just two
There's
passions
that.
coming together.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Definitely that business aspect for sure.
Right. And that's a whole other learning curve that people are like, oh, yeah, I should probably learn how to do that. So what you had mentioned in your application was you wanted to figure out what your words, proper marketing to get people to commit to schedule an appointment. So can you kind of share with me what you're doing that you don't think is proper, or what result you're getting that people aren't booking the appointment?
I get people inquiring about booking, um, which is one thing that kind of confuses me. I do put it out there like, oh yeah, I have this appointment available for this time, and I usually put out my earliest appointment. But then something turns and they just never end up booking.
Okay.
Um, and I reach out again and I'm like, hey, are you still looking to book? And um
Ghosted.
yeah, ghosted.
All right. So so how is it they're reaching out to want to book?
They usually DM me.
Okay. So DM on Instagram.
Yeah.
Cool. And then what is it they're saying in their initial DM?
Hey, what are your pricing? I do have my booking system on there. So I let them know what my pricing is. Um, and then they're like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. And then I let them know of my next available appointment because they don't usually follow up with any other questions besides the pricing. And
Okay.
I don't think I'm not highly priced. Like I don't have a high price point on my services because I feel like I'm still perfecting everything that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep it to a point where it feels comfortable for everyone. So I know it's not my pricing. So I don't know
So
what.
the objection of stopping them from booking is not actually your price point, is what you're saying, right? And
Yeah.
then we can look at behavior to see if that's accurate or not.
Mhm.
So one thing that I want to say is whatever you're doing on social media, as far as your content strategy, seems to be working to get the conversation going. So we've got something that's working there. So
Okay.
in terms of content strategy, I wouldn't necessarily reinvent the wheel or do anything too wild. I would always test to see if we can improve upon what we're doing. But your content strategy seems to be working to get the DM going, because the sales happen in the DM. They don't necessarily happen in the posts and people commenting back and forth. We want to draw them into a relationship, and that can happen through the DM.
Right.
So what I'm understanding, as far as basically what you're doing, is a sales flow. We call that a sales flow, right? It's a sales conversation, even though we don't want to make our audience aware of that, of like, we're trying to sell them, but that is essentially what's happening. So you're saying that the initial thing that they send you is, hey, what's your pricing, for the most part?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part, yeah.
So let's talk about that. Why would somebody who is clearly interested in what you have, they wouldn't message you if they weren't? Why is it the first thing that they would ask about is your pricing?
Mostly to see if it's within their budget, if it's something that they could do.
So to see if it's in their budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's talk about target marketing for a second. So to see if it's in their budget. So we're making the assumption that they're comparing us to other people. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right. So they're trying to see, essentially, are you the cheaper apple when they're comparing a bunch of different apples?
Right.
Is that a fair statement? Do you believe that that's kind of what's happening?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And you stated that your apple is not unreasonably priced. It's not the most expensive apple. It's not the cheapest apple, but we're not having the apple being taken by the customers most of the time, is what it's sounding like.
Right.
Okay. So if your apple is not the most expensive apple, I'm making this overcomplicated with apple analogy. When your services are not the most overpriced or the most underpriced, and you're kind of middle of the road for your area, then what is it that may be blocking them from booking the appointments? Because if you're saying if they're within budget, is it that we're getting the wrong people messaging us because we're not affordable to them? Or is it that pricing is not actually the reason that they're not booking with you, if that makes sense?
Yeah. It gets to a point where like I actually start thinking that it's not pricing.
Mhm.
There are times where they actually end up continuing the conversation talking about the styles. And
Okay.
yeah, so it's something that I do take my time with, and I do like for people to feel comfortable with what they're getting.
Okay.
But then I don't know if I get too into detail with what I'm saying, that it
Maybe,
just,
maybe not. We
yeah,
can go down that rabbit hole. So usually when somebody is asking price, I think you're fair to say that that is their first. They already know, they already like what they see, right? They already like your
Right.
Instagram is doing a good job of creating that demand of, ooh, I want this. Now, to help me understand this, in your link in your bio is your booking website.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're probably pretty savvy. People are pretty savvy with Instagram now that they can go to a link and actually go check out more information. Right.
Right.
So they could go find your pricing on their own. Maybe they already have, and maybe they haven't. I
Mhm.
would bet by them DMing you and asking your pricing, either they're looking if there's a special discount going on because on your booking site, it didn't have a discount. So maybe they're discount seeking, in which
Mm.
case, probably not your target market. But
Yeah.
chances are they probably wanted more information that your booking software is not giving them. And this is why I don't recommend having your booking software used as a website, because all it's telling them is price. And there's no other value being created to the customer and any other information they can get. So from a customer standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, how are they supposed to find out more information other than DMing you, which is what ends up happening? Right. And when they're DMing you, it's kind of like they don't necessarily know what to ask. Maybe they do have other questions, but they're leading with price because without having any other factors to consider comparing you to somebody else, it is a price comparison.
Mhm.
So when you give price, they make a snap judgment on their affordability of that price point. Now, which price point do you give them? Full set or fills?
Full set.
Full set, the most expensive service that you offer that is generally a one-time cost, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, holy cow, I've got to pay $150, $200, $300. Whoa, I don't want it that bad,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't even want to continue the conversation for you to even explain, like that's just a one-time thing. Really what you need to consider for your budget is the ongoing fill appointments, because that's what you'll be doing every 2 to 3 weeks.
Mhm.
So when we lead with price, and this happens all the time, we lead with price and we lead with the most expensive price point we have before we've ever understood the pain point that the customer is reaching out to us to solve for. So now all of a sudden, it's not about, can she help me? Does she understand my problems? Can she give me the look that I want? And I trust her to do that. And then this is the cost that's associated with me getting the results that I want. It's just price. And so
Yes.
I can see a nail shop down the street does it for like $50 less. Why would I? She's great, but I don't want to pay an extra $50 for that. Right. As opposed to you guys may have the same fill pricing, right?
Mhm.
But the last shop down the street, or the franchises are giving $79 full sets because they understand it's customer lifetime value. And the game is really in the fills and building clientele of fill clients, not just the full sets.
Right.
So when we lead with price first, especially the highest price we have, they're going to make a snap judgment of like, whoa, that's way too much. Like who can afford this stuff? Because they just lack education in the whole experience. Because if we don't have a website that can help them understand that, they have to put together your last 3, 6, 9 Instagram posts to try and piece together your business. Now, if you think back to your last, say, even 6 posts, do you think that gives a complete picture about your business and the services you offer and the people you help and how you can solve their problems?
Right. Not exactly. Yeah, yeah, when we're
And most
considering
people don't.
pricing and all that, yeah.
Yeah, your posts are very like micro,
Long term.
mini education, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that, right? And so
Right.
this is where having a website makes a world of difference to finish the customer journey, to complete the picture of their business, because they may have just started following you and they're ready to book now, or they may have been following you for months and months and months, and now they're like ready to book, but they don't quite know if you're the right person for them.
Mhm.
Instagram is a relationship building strategy in the marketing funnel. So the marketing funnel is a fancy term for basically how somebody goes from being a stranger to a customer. right? And so we put them into what's a funnel. At the very top of the funnel is what's called awareness level marketing. And it's where we make a bunch of strangers aware that we even exist and this is the services we do. And that gets them hopefully to move into something like following us on Instagram, which moves them down the funnel into the interest level marketing. This is where relationship is built. This is where trust is built. This is where they get to know you, get to like you, get to trust you. It's not where the booking happens. Because there's really, I mean, Instagram's trying to work on it, but there's nowhere to enter a credit card on Instagram for them to book the appointment. Now, it can take you to the booking software, sure. Right. But for the most part, and unless you have a really good Instagram strategy and you're building relationships and you're doing all that and they're ready to book and they don't care about anything else, because basically your Instagram strategy has handled all of the objections they have. We want to be able to send them to the website where they can get the rest of their questions answered and then go book the appointment. So your website really can be where all of the information about your business lives aside from what's in your head. Because if it's just in your head and nobody else knows it, then they have to DM you. But if you haven't done the work in understanding how to utilize the DMs to get the sale, to get the booking, then we're just giving them price and then we get ghosted.
Right.
Does that sound like at all what's happening in a sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, awesome. Glad we cleared that up. So where we can, there's a couple of different ways that we can go about this. First and foremost, highly recommend having a website. Okay. It doesn't have to be super complex. It doesn't have to be super crazy. Your booking site is not meant to be a part of your marketing. It is where the transaction happens, is where the booking happens. Let me ask you this, which booking site are you using currently? Square. Yeah. So when you go onto your booking site, what is one of the top things they probably see like visually when they log onto your website or your booking site?
Well, I have the actual button that says booking or book now.
Okay. Hold on. Let me actually go to your Instagram real quick. What is your Instagram handle?
It's Melo, MELO, aesthetic, ES.
There you are. Now don't go following her because you're going to mess up her algorithm, y'all. All right. So let me see. Linktree heads to, okay. Book now, Instagram. Okay. So book now. Okay. So you actually don't have what typically people have on their booking sites, which is, and it's okay. It's good actually, is people a lot of times have their booking policies in all caps and like they're aggressively yelling at somebody right at the time they're about to book. Now, when I jump on yours, it just says the services, which is fine. But it also says your price point, right? And so again, even for those that aren't DMing us, they're just going and seeing price and making a snap judgments. We're losing probably a lot of people. You may even be able to see in your analytics how many people have clicked the link to go to your website, but we're missing out because all we're giving them to base the decision off of is money.
Yeah.
And people will always want to pay the cheapest amount possible until they think that their pain point is higher than the cost of what it's going to cost them. So this is where your marketing can kind of come into play of having you understand their pain point. So why is it that your ideal customer is getting lashes? Why is she not just using mascara or strip lashes? Why is she looking to get extensions?
Right. Yeah. Then it just makes it easier. Just makes it easier.
Okay. So what is the pain point associated with extensions being easier, right? That's the solution. Right. Is that something is easier. We can get more specific, but what is easier? What is the opposite of that they're struggling with before they get extensions?
Yeah, they take about, okay, so personally, I take about 5-10 minutes to get makeup done and head out the door. With extensions, you don't have to do that. You don't even have to use any concealer, nothing. You just walk out the door, get dressed, head out. So and for the most part, I feel like that's most of my clients. They're almost a natural. They're already beautiful. They just want to enhance their eyes even more.
Yeah. So what is the pain point they're experiencing before that result? Because that's the result you're speaking to.
Yeah, they're taking time out of their day for something that maybe doesn't even matter to them as much as they think. It just doesn't really matter as much. They just want to look presentable. So before then, they got to take time out of their day, which they may want to focus on having a meal with their family in the morning or something. And now they have to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, cut that time off and have to start getting ready for work or school, whatever it may be.
So you actually, the opposite of what you first said, they don't look presentable. So what's the opposite of that? Or they would look presentable with extensions on. What's the opposite of that?
Just I think just
Don't
looking
overcomplicate it.
right, but I don't want to use this word, but just looking raggedy, just looking
Beautiful.
like
No, go ahead. I mean, we can get into like language as far as what they would say as opposed to you, but
yeah,
don't skirt around the fact that they don't feel attractive or presentable or like they can
right.
face the public. That is the pain point. You
Yeah.
skirting and like, I don't want to offend somebody. That's already their reality. And the more you can speak into that, the more they're going to be like, it's like she's in my head. Like, oh my God, she totally gets me.
Yeah.
So in my marketing, has that resonated with you where I speak to something and you're like, that's exactly what my problem is?
Right. Right.
Because I'm
And
not
because you're
skirting
not
around
holding
it.
back language. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. Because that's how I feel about myself. I'm like waking up in the morning. I'm like, dang, girl, you look so raggedy. You need to
Right.
do something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is their pain point too. So when we're talking about like they can be more presentable, I don't know that may be the solution they're looking for, but it's probably more powerful to look at the opposite of that and hone in on that being the pain point that lashes solve, that your lashes specifically solve. Because you do, I saw on your website says like you're on your booking thing, it said specialist in natural wispy lashes.
Yeah.
So you're not trying to go for the people that are trying to replace a really heavy strip lash or a mega volume look. So they may have different pain points of like, I hate putting on strip lashes every day and they always feel heavy and all that kind of stuff. We don't speak to that audience because that's not the pain point our specific service sells. We want to speak to those that naturally don't wear a whole lot of makeup and really just want to look refreshed, awake, and off they go, but they feel really raggedy when they don't have lashes on, or they just feel like they just look frumpy or just tired and they can't quite pinpoint it, right? But when they put on mascara, it looks great. But sometimes they have to use a lot of mascara or their lashes point down. It's just so annoying to like have to curl them, or there's a lot of maintenance that goes into them having a really natural, effortless look. Then when they get extensions, they wake up that way.
Right.
You see how different that messaging is in when you're doing Instagram type posts to them all of a sudden to feel like, oh, she gets it.
Yes.
Okay. So we can, our content strategy can be really good about, and even on your website, when that starts to get created, we can have those conversations and be able to speak to those pain points and not skirt around the raggedy conversation, because we're not insulting them. We're just identifying that they're having a pain point.
Yeah.
Right. If people don't feel raggedy, they're not going to connect with that post and they're not going to DM you. And that's okay. Because, you know, maybe there's a different word that they use that we can test out in a different post. But you can even interview your current clients. What was it like not having lashes before, and see what language they use and just use that language. No need to reinvent the wheel or come up with your own language.
Right. Okay.
So once we've done that with our content strategy, and you don't necessarily, it seems like your content is working fairly well, but we want to be very specific in the audience we're bringing in, because if you're getting people who are DMing you that want the big strip lash look and all that kind of stuff, and that's not what you do, yeah, they're probably going to ghost you because they really are just looking for a specific look that you don't do. But if you're cheaper, they'll go to you. We don't want that. We want people who really, really connect with the results and the transformation you can get them. Because once we've got them bought into that, then we can introduce pricing as education. So whenever you're getting the how much do you charge, what is your pricing DM, I don't want you to respond with price. That's the last thing you respond with.
Okay.
First thing is, how do you start any conversation in person?
How's your day going? How's it
Hi, I'm
going?
Lupita. How's your day going? Thank you so much for messaging me, right?
Right.
Because it can be very transactional. And that's kind of how social media is to start, is like, I want this information. And you're all of a sudden like, no, we're going to be humans here and have a conversation.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because what your competitors are doing are exactly what you're doing. What's your price? $250. That's too expensive. Or I just ghost you. Right. And so when you come in and you're like, hi, I'm Lupita. Thank you so much for messaging me. I'm so excited to talk to you about lashes. Can you tell me what you're looking for as far as a result, or why is it you're interested in getting lashes? And you start a conversation. All of a sudden now you're on a fact-finding mission, because you are just as much qualifying them as they're qualifying you. Because look, if they want a really heavy strip lash, and I'm tired of wearing strip lashes, I specialize in natural wispy lashes. And if that's a look you want to go for, I'm your girl. But it sounds like you want something a little more advanced, or not advanced necessarily, but like a little more dramatic than is really in my wheelhouse. I can highly recommend so-and-so at this Instagram, right? Seems weird that you're like sending them off to somebody else, but you can't get them the result that they want. or you don't want to get them the result that they want because that's not what you do. Right. And so it's not just a matter of getting anybody in the door. It's, I want to help the people that I know I can serve and rock out a kick-ass set for. And while, yes, maybe I could figure out how to do an 8D mega volume set, I don't want to. Right. And there's somebody else out there who will specialize in that. And you guys, you might even think, like, talk to that person. Hey, if you want anybody who wants a natural set, I'm your girl. And I'll send anybody who wants mega volume and all that stuff to you. Like, cool collaboration. We can be specialists in our unique zone of genius. Right. But it's also setting your client up for success as well. Because when a client is set up for success and they get the results they want, they're more likely to talk about it to other people, write you a good review, continue coming back. But if we get somebody in just because we're desperate for money, but we don't do the work that they want, then we have an upset customer and we went out of our comfort zone of what we want to offer and specialize in.
Yes.
Right. And that's a lose-lose for both. So we have a whole training on this inside the Lashpreneur site. It's called Dominating the DMs. But it's basically a sales conversation that we don't ever give price point first. We want to understand that we can get that. We understand the results that they want, right? So why is it you want lashes? You know, what else have you tried? Have you tried strip lashes or, you know, really understanding their pain point because that'll make your marketing better. They can even send you pictures in the DM of what they're thinking. You can then go into education of like, okay, well, the picture you sent me is actually strip lashes. So I want to make sure that you understand what you're seeing is a full face of makeup with strip lashes on, and extensions don't get that same result, but we can get you, you know, and you can kind of go into what's realistic, setting the expectations. So a lot of times clients want, like, they'll send pictures of celebrities that have full face makeup, big, thick eyeliner, and a strip lash. And it's like, well, we all want to look that way, but that's not what extensions are. Right. And that really builds trust that you're not just there to take their money, right? You're there to make sure that they're getting the result first.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really giving them the value of, I want to get you what you want. Or they'll say like, I loved this photo of that you posted. I want something that looks like that. Beautiful. Then you can go into, that is actually my hybrid set. It's a combination of volume and classic extensions. It is our most popular set. Whether it is or not, they're not going to know. You can say it is. And it's usually where I advise most of my new clients to start, because we can always go down to classic on a fill or go up in volume if you want more fullness. But I usually start here because it allows a lot of customization for a new client, right? Even asking, have you had lashes before? If they did, did they have a good experience? What did they like? What didn't they like? Why didn't they continue getting them? All of that is really good information for you to have to be able to then serve them at the best level, know where their level of education is, so that when they come in, we can have a really great experience and result to keep them coming back.
And I definitely think I was doing that backwards, because every time I have them come in, that's when I actually have that conversation. Like, oh, how was your experience with lashes? What did you like? What didn't you like? And all that. So I was definitely.
We already know the conversation.
Yeah.
Now put it into the sales conversation, because how much more valuable would that information be before you ever start throwing price point out there?
Right. Definitely.
Yeah. Yes. So, and it will help your marketing as well. So I want you to be very intentional when you're having these conversations. It's like, oh, she said she really wants lashes because XYZ. I'm going to go make a post about that next week so that somebody else just like her will connect with it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So then once you get to that point and you kind of have figured out, they're like, hell yes, this is what I want. When do you have availability? We want to make sure that we are then introducing price so that they don't have this like, whoa, now we've gone too far, because we've got them wanting it. So my suggestion when we get to that part of the conversation is not send them to a link in bio, because then they're going to make that snap judgment. We need you walking them through any sort of pricing objection they're going to have.
Right.
Okay. So before we talk about the price of the full set, I want to educate you that the full set is really the first appointment we have together. It is the longest and the most and the largest investment. I always try to avoid cost and price and language just from a psychology standpoint. It's the biggest investment. Then what you'll really want to consider for your budget is what the ongoing maintenance appointments will be. We call them fills or in touches or whatever you want to call them. Because that really every 2 to 3 weeks is what you'll be coming back for. The way that I described it was oftentimes people are more familiar with getting their nails filled. So I kind of equated to that. Your lashes are going to keep growing out just like your nails do. So you'll want to come in, get the old ones removed or the grown out ones removed, and we'll replace them with new ones so that every appointment you're walking out with what looks like a full set. But those appointments are much shorter and they're more frequent. They come every 2 to 3 weeks, whatever's average for you. So the price of the fills on average for my clients who tend to come back every X amount of weeks is blank price, right?
Yeah.
So that way you're painting the picture of what they really need to consider for their budget. And then, so we can do that. So you could go into your full set pricing, or you could say, is that within the budget that you were thinking before we get into full set? Because either it's like, yes, okay, cool, they bought in like $50 every 2 weeks, fine. Or they'll say, actually, that was a little above my price range, or that's more than I was thinking. And then here's what really is kind of cool. That's worked for me a lot, and you'll kind of have to test it. But I say, totally understand. I'm happy to recommend you to cheaper artists. Although now that you're really educated on the process, I hope you'll actually see how much they'll walk you through the whole process and educate you on the results that you're going to get. But I'm happy to share some other people that might be more affordable for you. But we're not negotiating our price point at that point, right? We're saying,
Right.
totally understand that that's not within your budget. I think it's a wise choice for you to stay within your budget so you can get these ongoing. But just make sure that you're also asking these same questions, or that the new artist is going to ask you the same questions to make sure that you're getting the experience and the results that you really want. Because what will end up most likely happening is that if they don't be like, no, I'm cool with it, I'll figure it out, they'll go do the same conversation with somebody else, but somebody's just going to give them the full set price. And they're not going to walk them through the education. They're not going to walk them through the value. They're not going to talk about the results. And so you may be more expensive, but now all of a sudden they already know the value of investing just a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Mind blown. It's
So
like,
that will give you so much more information, because even if they don't end up booking, you know why now. I was out of their budget, and it's not you have to accommodate their budget. They just weren't the target audience that can afford you. And we don't want to bring people in that can't afford us, because they're not long-term clients, and we can't build a business off of people who, the second there's a recession or gas prices go up, they can't afford lashes anymore at the
right.
price point that you charge. And
Yeah.
so if that continues to happen, if you're seeing a lot of that even your fill pricing is too high, we have a target market issue that we're not targeting the right clients that can't afford our prices.
Right.
So then we need to pivot our content strategy and where we're marketing to make sure that we are attracting people who can afford our prices ongoing,
Gotcha.
not you discounting your fills and all that kind of stuff. As far as the full set, you can play with that price point. To me, that's just the barrier of entry. And it is the most flexible price point that you can have to get somebody to book right now. So anytime that we're going to offer a discount, I highly recommend not doing it on your fills. That's your bread and butter. I would keep that consistently. I'd base all your budgeting and all your finances off of the fill pricing and the fill services. The full sets, generally people tend to overprice them than what they get for a fill. So if your fill is like $50 for an hour, most people don't charge $100 for a full set for the 2-hour service. They charge like $120, $150 and beyond. So we have a lot of room to make sure that we're still making our hourly rate per hour.
Yeah.
But you want to discount at $20, you want to do a $100 full set just to get somebody in the door as a limited time offer because you got some openings this week, go ahead, as long as your fill pricing is the same, because we're going to work on customer lifetime value, which is basically they come in for a full set. Do they come back for their next fill? How many fills do they keep coming back for? Because if me discounting my full set by $20 means that I get a fill client for the next 6 to 8 months, I will do that discount every time, because it's likely several hundred, if not $1,000 or more of value that's coming in the door by me offering a $20 discount.
Right. Yeah.
So you can kind of play with your full set pricing just to get somebody in the
long term
door.
is the fills. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. And okay, so we went over the conversion, which I'm just so mind blown, because I was doing this so backwards. Like I knew what to do. It was just like I was doing it at a backwards kind of, sorry, I have a puppy.
Okay. Hi, puppy.
I was doing it like at a backwards kind of step type of thing. Because yeah, no, what we're into is really just like the customer service about it, which is the part that I like about lashes. But then we also go into like taking models. So for the most part, like I've been taking some courses. I would say recently I've taken some kind of like one after the other. And so I do want to take some models so I can practice what I do, but I also don't want it to seem like, hey, I'm just giving free lashes.
Yeah.
I'm just,
So is it learning an advanced skill set or a new skill set?
Yeah, like a new technique type of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
So if you've already got some clients, I would start with the clients I already have that I have a cool relationship with. Be like, hey, I just learned a new technique. Would you mind if I tried it out and kind of explain what it is? They say yes or no. I tended not to do free models. Right. It's one thing to like practice, or if you're in the class and you need somebody to come in, get a friend or a family member or somebody to come in and you can work on, you can use it as model pricing. But again, it's the same thing of like discounting your full set.
mhm.
So kind of give me a specific example of what you would need a model for to practice on.
Mostly just so I could take my time, take the pictures that I need. Because I feel like when you're paying for it and then you're having to stay like an extra 30 minutes for pictures and videos and all that good stuff. I'm not too sure.
Do you
Um,
have them sign any part of their policies that they are releasing their photos to be used for marketing purposes?
for the most part, yeah. And
So
by for the most part, I
in
mean,
my business, there were very few people that declined that, and I respected that if they did. But for the
mhm,
most part, taking before and after photos was a part of the service. It was
got
not optional, like, oh, I'm just testing something new out. And I also wanted to see transition and growth. So I have the same clients, and almost every time we would take an after photo, right? Especially if you're testing something out with a new client. Okay, are you cool if I test this out? Like I'm adding in some volume fams. So today there's no extra charge for it. Eventually it will be an extra charge, but I'm going to test it out to get you some more fullness. And I'd love to take some after photos, right?
okay.
When we can do really decent photo editing that we're then going to share on social media, oftentimes clients are like, yeah, I want to be seen that way. Like I want these photos. I always sent the photos to my clients as well so they could post it, because it's a really beautifully edited photo as well. So, we don't make it look not like them, but we do good lighting and all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
if you include as part of your service that before and after photos are going to be taken, let that be the norm. And occasionally maybe you don't because you're rushed, or they showed up late or whatever, but let it be the norm and the expectation that photos will be taken, because
Mhm.
that's content for you that is going to be really valuable to keep marketing yourself.
Right.
So
Yeah.
then when it comes to like introducing a new service, we're not necessarily having to, do model calls, that kind of stuff. Like, so give me an example of a service that you needed a model for.
Mostly for technique. Just trying to perfect like the certain ways that I do. And so sometimes it takes a little bit longer than it would if I was to just do something that I'm more comfortable with.
Okay, so
For
give
example,
me a specific, like what is the
yeah.
technique?
So like for example, like I'm more used to pinching. So then now I am practicing off the strip lashing fanning.
Okay.
So that's taking me a little bit longer because I need to get the micro movements down, right? So at that point, it's taking me longer than the time that it typically takes me to do a regular set. So now I have to keep them longer to finish the set and then take some pictures.
So I actually suggest including that in your current sets and your current fills. So block off, or you're going to do 10 minutes of doing it on the strip as part of the service, and then go back to pinching, which you're faster with, so that you're getting paid practice on your current clients, your new technique. Because the
Okay.
result is not necessarily going to change for the client, but we're wanting to be mindful of time. And so instead of trying to do a model set of a full volume set where you're only doing that, how can you start to test it out right now? This is actually how I got into doing volume. I offered volume sets when I got trained, but I wasn't comfortable doing them. What I did was I marketed class or a hybrid set,
Mhm.
and I called it my signature set. I was my most popular service. I labeled it as that, even though I'd never done it before, because I wanted to start off. I would do 30 minutes in a full set of practicing the volume fans, and then I'd make up for classic. And eventually it got to where it was 50-50 time, right?
Mhm.
Where I could do a lot more volume because I was getting better and faster at the technique. But just to start, I was going to use my current paying clients who were getting the signature or the hybrid set, and I was working on the technique and working on my timing with it so I could get some paid practice in.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you could already start to do it and not have to like have a model come in for the same set and the same price, or maybe even a lesser price. Just keep advertising for that set and those clients to come in. And then, okay, I'm going to start off doing strips for the first, 10, 15 minutes of the service. And then I'm going to make up with what I'm much faster at.
Gotcha. Okay,
Does that make
perfect.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah, so that kind of puts away the whole idea of um either pricing down for a model or just doing them for free.
Yeah,
That
because
helps.
really, I mean, if we're looking at it from the bigger picture, and I get when you're first starting out and you have no experience doing lashes and you can't get the result yet, then
Mhm,
maybe model pricing or significantly discounted. But really, I would try to look at friends and family and just trying to get people with that you already have a relationship with, rather than using our marketing platforms where we eventually want full price paying clients, because then you're just going to get people who are in the discount that aren't necessarily looking to come back. And so then you can't get better at your work because you're
mhm,
not getting the feedback of did they last and all this kind of stuff. So I would
mhm.
rather go when you're just starting out and you can't get the result because you don't know what you're doing. Just work on people that you already have a relationship with so that you can get the feedback to get better. You're not in that state. You already at least know how to get a certain result. And now you're looking to improve and enhance and grow your skill set. So then I wouldn't necessarily look to do model pricing. I would, if you want to discount the full set because you're doing this with intention that you want to get more practice in, then do it as a limited time special for the holidays, like all full sets for new clients are 20% off through the end of the month, that kind of thing, with
Mhm.
your knowing that you're going to get a lot more practice in on this new technique that you're working on.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That way we're not drawing in people who are, when we do a limited time discount, we're getting people off the fence who are already interested in what we have. We're just giving an incentive to do it now as opposed to wait.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Amazon wish list. A lot of people have stuff in their wish list. Do you happen to notice when you put stuff in your wish list, within a couple of weeks, you're going to start getting emails from Amazon like, hey, this thing in your wish list is on discount for the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
There's a
Mhm.
reason for that.
Yeah.
Because then you go buy it then
Right.
rather than it's going to sit in your wish list for another 6 months.
Yeah. Just make it
Scarcity
a
marketing, it's a beautiful thing.
it
All right,
is.
so let's touch on one more thing that you had actually brought up in the pre-interview, which was you have you're looking to get into creating an ebook for lash artists, and you're trying to figure out how to market that. Is that correct?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so anybody who's looking to, they're doing services and then they want to start marketing to basically an entire different audience.
Mhm.
I need you to make the mental switch that it's an entirely different business that you're creating.
Okay.
Just because you're the one running it does not mean it's the same business. Because let me ask you this. Somebody who is searching to get eyelash extensions from you, we already discussed, they're looking to solve their raggedy problem, right?
Yeah.
Your ebook, is that solving a raggedy problem for a client?
No.
Therefore, it has a completely different pain point and problem that it solves for a
Mhm.
completely different audience,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So it is a separate business.
Okay.
So anybody who's listening, who's wanting to go into e-commerce and supplies and education and all this kind of stuff, it's completely separate. So have I ever posted anything about how lashes can transform your look and take you from overnight or from make it faster in the mornings, right?
Right. Yeah, no.
Because I'm serving a lash artist audience and I'm actually specifically serving business problems for lash artists mainly.
Mhm.
Right. So it would not make sense for me to also post about lash services, which I don't do anymore. But for a season, I was running both businesses because my lash services was really only for those that were in San Diego, even within like a 10-mile radius of me, that wanted eyelash extensions, that had had them before and were prioritizing their natural lash health. So I was very niche down and I was very specific of who I drew in for that. So me to try and throw in some educational posts on lash artists and why being a lash artist is such an amazing career and look at how much money you can make as a lash artist is peeing in the wrong pool,
Mhm.
right? I needed to create a platform where I could build an audience and serve them solving the pain point that I could help them with. And that was a different platform. So if you've built a following of lash artists on your physical brick and mortar Instagram page, we got to get them out of there and onto a different page.
Okay.
Right. And this is where I have a really big issue with those like for like and follow for follow trains on those Facebook groups, because it is the wrong audience for what they're trying to. So you can have 1,000 followers, you can have 10,000 followers, but if none of them are ever going to buy from you because they live across the world or live across the country and they're your peers, well, yes, maybe they'll be supportive a little bit, but after a while, they're going to stop engaging. And so it's not having the effect of actually informing you of what your audience wants to see that are actually going to buy from you.
Mhm.
So if you want to go down this ebook path and serving the lash artist community, fantastic. start an Instagram page where it is solely for the purpose of serving that audience with the pain points that they have and the solution that you can help them with.
Okay.
Because the belief that you're going to utilize your current platform and already take the momentum that's happening there is misguided, because that is not actually the people that you can help serve with this ebook.
Right.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. And that was definitely something, because I didn't want to confuse my audience.
Mm-hmm. A
That
confused buyer doesn't buy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, just think about it from an algorithm standpoint. The algorithm is engagement based, right? And so what it does is it tests out your post with a certain part of your followers. And based on how they engage with it, it will either send it out to more accounts or it will not, because nobody's engaging with it. So when we start to double dip audiences, people follow your current Instagram account mainly for lash services and the Raggedy Ann problem.
Mhm.
If we're getting any sort of lash artists in there, it's because they're creeping, trying to look at what you do, not because they're looking at you as an educator or they want to learn from you. Maybe one or two want to learn from you, but selling one or two ebooks is not worth your time. So we need to have a separate platform where we are drawing in lash artists who want to learn specifically what you do or how you help them or whatever the ebook is going to be about and wherever you want to take that.
Mhm.
Because here's the thing that's going to happen too. Let's just say you're going to use your current Instagram that targets lash clients, and you start to bring in some lash artists in there, and then you start to build a lash artist audience. And now all of a sudden you're like, I really want to focus in on that. But now we've got 500 lash potential clients in there mixed in with our lash artists. And now we're having a really hard time getting all of those clients out of there because we're shifting and pivoting here. And so at some point we may have to fully branch off into another Instagram account. So all the work we've done up to this point kind of goes to waste, and we have to start over with a new account as opposed to starting fresh from the beginning.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So, okay.
Any questions coming up with that, or any overwhelm?
Yeah, I think it's more overwhelming just thinking, I haven't even made it yet. It's just an idea, but just thinking that I have to like open up a new account and not start new, because I already have an audience in my current account.
We are
But
starting new because it's a new audience and it's a new business.
yeah, just having to bring those people that I do have there, because I do have some lash artists following me there. So bring those artists into the other account. I think that's the part that just
Yes,
feels
you
a
could
little
try
bit.
to do that, right? And if they engage with you, say like, hey, my account for lash artists is over here, but I would rather you not worry about necessarily trying to transition them or trying to avoid that, because it is harder to do.
Right.
I would just focus on the value of what you can bring on that secondary account and let it grow from there. I've never participated as the Lashpreneur in any of those follow for follows, even though that is my target audience. You want to know why?
What is that?
Because I don't want people following me because I'm in a list. I
Mhm.
want people to follow me because I actually can help them and they see that and they want to learn more from me.
Right.
So anybody who's participating in follow for follows, they're only doing it because you're on a list, and that is not how you get a customer, right? This is probably before your time because you're a little younger than me, but remember the yellow pages when you just like flipped through and you're like, whoever's the first on the list, call them, as opposed to who really is the best at helping me with my problem.
Yeah. I
That's
used to
the
use that
same
book
thing as
for
those
prank
freaking
calls.
follow for follow trains. Oh, just a whole rant on follow for follow trains. I get it, because they don't understand how to utilize these platforms to work for them.
Yeah.
Right? Really, it's about serving people at the best way that you can. And especially with where Instagram is heading and the way that these online and social media platforms are for, people are sick of businesses and the robots and the content. They want relationship.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
They want connection with people, especially after the pandemic when we were all removed from each other. We want to be able to connect. And so the more you can do that with whoever it is that you're serving, let that be what motivates your content. And I'd rather you just post once a week that's a really connecting post than try to post 6 times a week and have all this content and like just overwhelmed with the amount of work.
Mhm.
Let it be a passion side hustle for you to start building a platform that, so kind of share with me the topic of what your ebook idea is. You don't have to get into details because I know you're still building it out, but
Yeah. So it's more, I'm thinking about calling it "You Don't Know What You Don't Know." It's just basically going over some stuff that we were taught at the beginning when we were first learning how to lash that is now being debunked. Or I've been doing like my own research, and so now it's like all these things that we were first taught, it's not
it was
as
kind of
accurate as
polarizing.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that could do really, really well.
Yeah.
Because
So
you're taking these current belief in what, standard trainings are, or what kind of old, if an educator has not had continuing education, they're still teaching this way, you're
right.
coming in being like, that is not how we do it anymore. That's not best for the clients and all that kind of stuff. That content performs really well on social media because people love to come and pick it apart.
Yeah.
But you've done your research, and I want you to be okay and totally embrace the fact that you're going to get people disagreeing with you. In fact, the more people that disagree with you, the better the post is, and the more aligned you are in what you're teaching.
No, definitely. I mean, I've heard you. You love it when people disagree with you.
I do, because I don't post stuff, and honestly now it's my social media manager that's posting it, but it's coming from my brain, and it's like, I want people to disagree with me because then I can actually start to walk them through why it is I see it that way, because I have thought all of this through. I have seen how things are done incorrectly, especially when it comes to like team building, which is where a lot of our content is focused right now, is because in our industry for like 30, 40 years, it's been done wrong for employment. It has been done either illegally, it has been done at the cost of either the owner or the employee or both, and it's not an effective business model for 90% of the way that people building teams do it. It's not to say there aren't outliers out there, but when I come in and I state something like 50% commission is a losing model for employees and employers, and I get people who are like, no, it totally worked for me and where I worked at, and da 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 da. I actually take what they say and I'm like, exactly, you're speaking to my point. You actually know now, go run your own business because you couldn't get paid more than 50% and you thought that you were going to go make more, and now you're struggling to make a paycheck because there's more cost to running a business. And this is why I think we have so much of these salon suites and solo business owners happening in our industry, and such a shift is because there aren't really that many employment opportunities in our industry that work for both the employee employer. And I have found a way that it does work. And that's why we have these programs that we're building out. So the more controversial you can be, as long as it's with good intent and it's educational, not meant to just like pick people apart.
Right.
Bring it on. Let's open the discussion. Right.
Yeah.
So let it be a passion project and let it naturally gain steam, because I want you to focus on building your lash services business so that that can then help fund this other bigger, which could go a lot more and a lot further, the education side of things.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. No, that helps. That helps take a little bit more of the overwhelmness of building a whole new page. Yeah. When I think about it like that, it just makes it a whole lot easier. Just makes it,
because what will build the audience first before you build the product.
Right.
Start to build that, because then people will start to be like, can I get education from you? Or, hey, I have a question about this. And that will help you create and formulate your ebook so that then when you have it ready, even if it's not perfect, you've got something to offer people who are already hungry to learn from you. Be like, hey guys, thank you so much for following. Like, you got 1,000 people that are following you and they totally buy into what you're saying. They love the content. That will then motivate you then to focus more energy and effort in growing that community, growing that side of the business, creating something that you can sell, having an audience that you could already sell it to, right? That's what I did. I spent 6 months doing just 1 minute lash biz tip of the days on Instagram back in 2016 before I ever had anything that anybody could pay for. Right. And then when I did finally, was like, okay, I need to get a website up. I need to offer one-on-one coaching. I had 2 clients sign up, one-on-one coaching. Shout out to Anita and Stephanie. They were my first clients. And I had no idea what I was doing, and I was figuring it out, but that's where it started after 6 months of free value and just giving out tips and building an audience. I think I had maybe 1,500 followers at that point, but I got 2 sales, and that's what started it all. That's what started everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh my. Well, okay. So if we're gonna build a whole new platform for the education, would you still keep it within the same website just to make it easier?
Well, you don't have anything to sell yet, so I wouldn't complicate it there.
Right.
I would get your website on your lash services because you already have stuff that you can offer there. You've already got a system that's working to bring in leads. It's not necessarily converting clients. Let's build out your marketing funnel and finish up your marketing funnel for your lash services. And then you can start to think about how to build out that same funnel on the other business. I want you to always keep in mind they're separate businesses.
Okay.
Just because you're the one overseeing both of them,
you're
still separate, right? Even when it comes to like categorizing money, when it comes to tax time, yes, they could probably go under each other until this one really starts to stand on its own. And you're doing, if you're doing $10,000 a year or more on this business, I would start to have it have its own tax identity and all that kind of stuff. But I really want you to look at it as two separate businesses. That way, if you ever start to go in the other direction, you don't have to untangle and, piece apart your brick and mortar business as much.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because is it my assumption that eventually you would love to be like full-time educator of some kind, or that being your primary income?
Yeah, that's the goal. That would be awesome.
That would be amazing. I might not have done it, so I happen to like it, but do you? It's a nice little backup, but it's also really helpful to, from the start, look at them separate rather than we've got both going. They're pretty successful each, and now we're really wanting to go successful here, but they're so enmeshed and entangled that it's really hard to figure out what money's going where, because otherwise it's really hard to look at even splitting your audiences to know, can this sustain by itself? Because I can't really tell which money's coming in from the lash services versus the lash education. We want to be able to say this lash education can stand on its own. It's producing this much a month. We have this many followers for this specific thing. I think if I spent more time on this, I could really make that go much further.
Okay.
That'll help you make some better decisions.
Yeah, definitely.
Was this helpful? Are you glad you applied?
Yeah, it was. Yes.
I have some work to do, unfortunately.
I know.
Come talk to Tara. She'll give you homework for months.
Yeah. It was definitely what I needed, and it's what I've been waiting for. So I'm just excited to get this going. I know there's some work that needs to get done, but that's with everything. That's with everything that you want to make work.
Yeah, being an entrepreneur, there's always work to be done. It's just, it starts to get more enjoyable when you're in alignment and you have a path, right? It's when we're lost and we're kind of fumbling, or we can't figure out what works and nothing's working. And this really is, getting clarity helps a lot. And that's why it helps to have a coach or a community for you to be able to like focus in and know, okay, I'm just going to focus in on this. So right now, all of a sudden you're already shifting the way that you're doing DMs. Right. And so that is going to be one thing that you can implement right away. Building out the other account for the other side of the business, that can take time, right? But it's also not super urgent that we get that done today, but it can be as you have capacity, or as you're excited about it, or as you're inspired, create a post.
Yeah.
Right? And so as that stuff comes up, that's what I did. Is my Lash Biz tips became from when I was working with clients and they'd ask a question. I was like, cool, I can do a post on this later tonight about this specific question a client asks and how I handled it. And that'll be my content for the day. So let it be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I was taking the fun out of it.
Yeah, we all have a tendency to do that. Let's make business hard and miserable, and let's suffer a lot. That's the fun way to do it.
That's beautiful.
You're not alone in that, unfortunately. I do it all the time too, and I have to catch myself. That's why one of our core values here at Team Lashpreneur is have freaking fun, because if it's not fun, why are we doing it? Yeah. All right, doll. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. And I hope for all of you listening that this was helpful and valuable for you. Let me know on Instagram. Hit me up in the DMs if you loved this episode. And Lupita, thank you so much for coming on and sharing about your business and diving into marketing.
Heck yeah. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. Have a good one.